The Importance of Being Earnest, a trivial comedy for serious people, by Oscar Wilde. Act 1. Scene. Morning room in Algernon's flat in Half Moon Street. The room is luxuriously and artistically furnished. The sound of a piano is heard in the adjoining room. Lane is arranging afternoon tea on the table, and after the music has ceased, Algernon enters. Algernon. Did you hear what I was playing, Lane? Lane. I don't think it polite to listen, sir. I'm sorry for that, for your sake. But I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately. But I play with a wonderful expression. As far as the piano is concerned, sentiment is my forte. I keep science for life. Yes, sir. And speaking of the science of life, have you got the cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Bracknell? Yes, sir. Hands them on a slaver. Algernon inspects them and takes two, and sits down on the sofa. Oh, by the way, Lane, I see from your book that on Thursday night, when Lord Shorman and Mr. Worthing were dining with me, 8 bottles of champagne are entered as having been consumed. Yes, sir, 8 bottles and a pint. Why is it that at a bachelor's establishment the servants invariably drink the champagne? I ask merely for the information. I attribute it to the superior quality of the wine, sir. I have often observed that in married households the champagne is rarely of a first-rate brand. Good heavens, is marriage so demoralizing as that? I believe it is a very pleasant state, sir. I've had very little experience of it myself, to the present. I've only been married once. That was in consequence of a misunderstanding between myself and a young woman. I don't know that I had as much interest in your family life, Lane. No, sir, it is not a very interesting subject. I never think of it myself. Very natural, I'm sure. That will do, Lane. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Lane goes out. Lane's views on marriage seem somewhat lax. Really, if the lower orders don't set us a good example, what on earth is the use of them? They seem, as a class, to have absolutely no sense of moral responsibility. Enter Lane. Mr. Earnest Worthing. Enter Jack. Lane goes out. Algernon. How are you, my dear Earnest? What brings you to town? Jack. Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring one anywhere? Eating as usual, I see, Algy. I believe it is customary in good society to take some slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since last Thursday? Jack sits down on the sofa. In the country. What on earth did you do there? Jack pulls off his gloves. When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring. And who are the people you amuse? Oh, the neighbours. Got nice neighbours in your part of the Shropshire? Perfectly horrid. Never speak to one of them. How immensely you must amuse them. Goes over and takes a sandwich. By the way, Shropshire is your country, is it not? Eh? Shropshire? Yes, of course. Hullo, what are these cups? Why the cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who's coming to tea? Oh, merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolen. How perfectly delightful. Yes, it is all very well, but I am afraid your Aunt Augusta won't quite approve of your being here. May I ask why? My dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolen is perfectly disgraceful. It is almost as bad as the way Gwendolen flirts with you. I'm in love with Gwendolen. I have come up to town expressly to propose to her. I thought you had come here for pleasure. I call that business. How utterly unromantic you are. I really don't see anything unromantic in proposing. It is very romantic to be in love, but there's nothing romantic about a definite proposal. Why, one may be accepted, one usually is, I believe. Then the excitement is all over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If ever I get married, I'll certainly try to forget the fact. I've no doubt about that, dear Algy. The divorce card was specifically invented for people whose memories are so curiously constituted. Oh, there's no use speculating on the subject. Divorces are made in heaven. Jack puts out his hand to take a sandwich. Algernon at once interferes. Please don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They are ordered specifically for Aunt Augusta. Takes one and eats it. Well, you have been eating them all the time. That is a quite different matter. She's my aunt. Takes a plate from below. Have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolen. Gwendolen is devoted to bread and butter. Jack advances to the table and helping himself. And very good bread and butter it is too. Well, my dear fellow, you need not eat it as if you were going to eat it all. You behave as if you were married to her already. You are not married to her already, and I don't think you will ever be. Why on earth do you say that? Well, in the first place, girls never marry the men they flirt with. Girls don't think it right. Oh, that's nonsense. It isn't. It's a great truth. It accounts for the extraordinary number of bachelors that one sees all over the place. In the second place, I don't give my consent. Your consent? My dear fellow, Gwendolen is my very first cousin. And before I allow you to marry her, you will have to clear up the whole question of Cecily. Rings bell. Cecily? What on earth do you mean? What do you mean by Algy, by Cecily? I don't know anyone of the name of Cecily. Lane enters. Bring me that cigarette case Mr. Worthing left in the smoking room the last time he dined here. Lane. Yes, sir. Lane goes out. Jack. Do you mean to say that you had my cigarette case all this time? I wish to goodness you had let me know. I've been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. I was very near offering a large reward. Algernon. Well, I wish you would offer one. I happen to be more than usually hard up. There's no good offering a large reward now that the thing is found. Lane enters with a cigarette case on his slaver. Algernon takes it, and Lane goes out. I think it rather mean of you, Ernest, I must say. Opens the case and examines it. However, it makes no matter, for, now that I look at the inscription, I find that the thing isn't yours after all. Of course it's mine. Moves to him. You've seen me with it 100 times. You have no right whatsoever to read what is written inside. It's a very ungentlemanly thing to do, to read a private cigarette case. Oh, it is absurd to have a hard and fast rule about what one should read and what one shouldn't. More than half of modern culture depends on what one shouldn't read. I'm quite aware of the fact, and I don't propose to discuss modern culture. It isn't the sort of thing one should talk of in private. I simply want my cigarette case back. Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is a present from someone of the name of Cecily. And you said you don't know anyone of that name. Well, if you want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt. Your aunt? Yes, charming old lady she is, too. Lives at Tunbridge Wells. Just give it back to me, Algy. Algy retreats back to the sofa. But why does she call herself Little Cecily if she's your aunt and lives at Tunbridge Wells? Reading. From Little Cecily, with her fondest love. Jack moves to the sofa and kneels upon it. My dear fellow, what on earth is there in that? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. It is a matter that surely an aunt may be allowed to decide for herself. You seem to think that every aunt should be exactly like your aunt. That is absurd. For heaven's sake, give me back my cigarette case. Follows Algernon round the room. Yes, but why does your aunt call her your uncle? From Little Cecily, with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. There's no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt, but why an aunt, no matter about her size may be, should call her own nephew her uncle? I can't quite make out. Besides, your name isn't Jack at all, it's Earnest. It isn't Earnest, it's Jack. You've always told me it was Earnest. I've introduced you to everyone as Earnest. You answer to the name of Earnest. You look as if your name was Earnest. You're the most earnest-looking person I ever saw in my life. It's perfectly absurd for your saying that your name isn't Earnest. It's on all your cards. Here's one of them, taking it from the case. Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, the Albany. I'll keep this as proof your name is Ernest, if you ever attempt to deny it to me, or to Gwendolen, or to anyone else. He puts the card in his pocket. Well, my name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country, and the cigarette case was given to me in the country. Yes, but that does not account for the fact that your small aunt Cecily, who lives at Tunbridge Wells, calls you her dear uncle. Come on, boy. You'd better have the thing out at once. My dear Algy, you talk exactly as if you were a dentist. It's very vulgar to talk like a dentist when one isn't a dentist. It produces a false impression. Well, that is exactly what dentists always do. Now go on, tell me the whole thing. I may mention that I've always suspected you of being a confirmed and secret Bunburyist, and I'm quite sure of it now. Bunburyist? What else do you mean by Bunburyist? I'll reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you are kind enough to inform me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country. Well, produce my cigarette case first. Here it is, hands the cigarette case. Now produce your explanation, and pray make it improbable. He sits on the sofa. My dear fellow, there is nothing improbable about my explanation at all. In fact, it's perfectly ordinary. Old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a little boy, made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle, moves of respect that you could not possibly appreciate, lives at my place in the country, under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism. Where is that place in the country, by the way? That is nothing to you, dear boy. You are not to be invited. I may tell you candidly that the place is not in Shropshire. I suspected that, my dear fellow. I've Bunburyed all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now go on. Why are you Ernest in town and Jack in the country? My dear Algy, I don't know whether you will be able to understand my real motives. You are hardly serious enough. When one is placed in the position of guardian, one has to adopt a very high moral tone in all subjects. It's one's duty to do so. And as a high moral tone can be said to conduce very much to either one's health or one's happiness, in order to get up to town, I've always pretended to have a younger brother by the name of Earnest, who lives in the Albany, and gets the most dreadful scrapes. That, my dear Algy, is the whole truth. pure and simple. The truth is rarely pure and never simple. Modern life would be very tedious if it were either, and modern literature was a complete impossibility. That wouldn't be at all a bad thing. Literary criticism is not your forte, my dear fellow. Don't try it. You should leave that to the people who haven't been at university. They do it so well in the daily papers. What you really are is a Bunburyist. I was quite right in saying you are a Bunburyist. You are one of the most advanced Bunburyists I know. What on earth do you mean? You have invented a very useful younger brother called Earnest, in order that you may be able to come up to town as often as you like. I've invented a very invaluable permanent invalid called Bunbury, in order that I may be able to go down into the country whenever I choose. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. If it wasn't for Bunbury's extraordinarily bad health, for instance, I wouldn't be able to dine with you at Wilde tonight, for I haven't been really engaged, Aunt Augusta, for more than a week. I haven't asked you to dine with me anywhere tonight. I know. You are absolutely careless about sending out invitations. It's very foolish of you. Nothing annoys people so much as not receiving invitations. You had much better dine with your Aunt Augusta. I haven't the smallest intention of doing anything of the kind. To begin with, I dine there on Monday, and once a week is quite enough to dine with one's relatives. In the second place, whenever I do dine there, I am always treated as a member of the family, and sent down with either no women at all, or two. In the third place, I know perfectly well whom she will place me next to tonight. She will place me next to Mary Farquhar, who always flirts with her own husband across the dinner table. It is not very pleasant, indeed. It is not very decent, and that sort of thing is enormously on the increase. The amount of women in London who flirt with their own husbands is perfectly scandalous. It looks so bad. It's simply washing one's clean linen in public. Besides, now that I know you to be a confirmed Bunburyist, I naturally want to talk to you about Bunburying. I want to tell you the rules. I'm not a Bunburyist at all. If Gwendolen accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother, and indeed I think I'll kill him in any case. Cecily is a little too much interested in him. It is rather a bore, so I'm going to get rid of Earnest, and I strongly advise you to do the same with your invalid friend, who has an absurd name. Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. If you ever get married, which seems to me extremely problematic, you'll be very glad to know Bunbury. A man who marries without knowing Bunbury is a very tedious time of it. That is nonsense. If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolen, and she's the only girl I ever saw in my life that I would marry, I certainly wouldn't want to know Bunbury. Then your wife will. You don't seem to realize that in married life, 3 is company and 2 is none. That, my dear young friend, is the theory that the corrupt French drama has been propounding for the last 50 years. Yes, and that happy English home has provided in half the time. For heaven's sake, don't try to be cynical. It's perfectly easy to be cynical. My dear fellow, if it isn't to be anything nowadays, there's such a lot of beastly competition about it. The sound of an electric bell is heard. Ah, that must be Aunt Augusta. Only relatives or creditors ever ring in that Wagnerian manner. Now, if I get her out of the way for 10 minutes so that you can have an opportunity for proposing to Gwendolen, may I dine with you tonight at Willis's? I suppose if you want to. Yes, but you must be serious about it. I hate people who are not serious about meals. It is so shallow of them. Lane enters. Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax. Algernon goes forward to meet him. Enter Lady Bracknell and Gwendolen. Lady Bracknell. Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you are behaving very well. I'm feeling very well, Aunt Augusta. Well, that's not quite the same thing. In fact, these two things rarely go together. She sees Jack and bows to him with icy curtness. Algernon to Gwendolen. Dear me, you are smart. Gwendolen. I'm always smart, aren't I, Mr. Worthing? You're quite perfect, Mrs. Fairfax. Oh, I hope I'm not that. It would leave no room for developments, and I intend to develop in many directions. Gwendolen and Jack sit down together at the corner. I'm sorry for it late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on our dear Lady Hadbury. I think she's been there since her poor husband's death. I never saw a woman so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And now I'll have a cup of tea, and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me. Certainly, Aunt Augusta. Goes over to the tea table. Won't you come and sit here, Gwendolen? Thanks, Mamma. I'm quite comfortable where I am. Good heavens, Lane. Why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specifically. Lane. There were no cucumber sandwiches in the market this morning, sir. I went there twice. No cucumbers? Said Algernon. No, sir. Not even for ready money. Well, this will do, Lane. Thank you. Lane. Thank you, sir. Goes out. I'm greatly distressed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers. Not even for ready money. This really makes no matter, Algernon. I had some crumpets with Lady Hadbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure now. I hear her hair has turned quite gold from grief. It certainly has changed its colour, from what cause I, of course, cannot say. Algernon crosses and hands tea. Thank you. I'm quite a treat for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to send you down with Mary Farquhar. She's such a nice woman, and too attentive to her husband. It's delightful to watch them. I'm afraid, Aunt Augusta, I shouldn't have to give up on the pleasure of dining with you tonight. After all, I hope not, Algernon. You'd put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he is accustomed to that. It is a great bore, and I need hardly say a terrible disappointment to me. But the fact is, I have just had a telegram to say that my poor friend Bunbury is very ill again. He exchanges a glance with Jack. They seem to think I should be with him. That's very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health. Yes, poor Bunbury is a dreadful invalid. Well, I must say, Algernon, that I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury make up his mind whether he is going to live or to die. This silly shadowing with that question is absurd. Nor do I in any way approve of the modern sympathy with invalids. I consider it morbid. Illness of any kind is hardly a thing to be encouraged in others. Health is the primary duty of life. I'm always telling people that you go to your poor uncle, but he has never seemed to take much notice. As far as any improvement in his ailments goes, I should be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury for me, to be kind enough not only to have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music for me. It is my last reception that one wants something that will encourage conversation, particularly at the end of the season when anyone has practically said whatever they had to say, which in most cases was probably not much. I'll speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he's still conscious, and I think I can promise you he'll be all right by Saturday. You see, if one plays good music, people don't listen. If one plays bad music, people don't talk. But I'll run over to the program. I'll drown out. If you kindly come to the next room for a moment. Thank you, Algernon. It's very thoughtful of you. She rises and follows Algernon. I'm sure the program will be delightful. After a few excursions, French songs I cannot possibly allow. People either seem to think they are improper and either look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German sounds so a thoroughly respectable language, and indeed I believe it is so. Gwendolen, you will accompany me. Certainly, Mamma. Lady Blackburn and Algernon go into the music room. Gwendolen remains behind. Jack. Charming day it has been, Mrs. Fairfax. Gwendolen. Pray, don't talk to me about weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain they mean something else. It makes me so nervous. I do mean something else. I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong. And I would like to be allowed to take advantage of Lady Blackburn's temporary absence. I would certainly advise you to do so. Mamma has a way of coming back suddenly into the room, and I've often had to speak to her about. Mrs. Fairfax, ever since I've met you, I've admired you more than any girl I've ever met since I met you. Yes, I'm quite aware of the fact. I often wish that in public, at any rate, you've always been more demonstrative. For me, you have always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent about you. Jack looks at her in amazement. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. The fact is consistently mentioned in the more expensive monthly magazines, and it's reached the provincial pulpits, I am told. And my ideal has always been to love someone of the name of Earnest. There is something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. The moment Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you. You really love me, Gwendolen? Passionately. Darling, you don't know how happy you make me. My own Earnest. But you don't really mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Earnest. But your name is Earnest. Yes, I know it is, but supposing it was something else, do you mean to say you couldn't love then? That is certainly a metaphysical speculation. And like most metaphysical speculations, there's very little reference to all the actual facts of real life as we know them. Personally, darling, to speak quite candidly, I don't much care about the name of Earnest. I don't think the name suits me well. It suits you perfectly. It's a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibrations. Well, really, Gwendolen, I must say that I think there are lots of other, much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance, a charming name. Jack? No, there's very little music in the name of Jack. If any at all, indeed. It does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibration. I have known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, were more than usually plain. Besides, Jack has a notorious domesticity for John. I pity any woman who was married to a man called John. He would probably never be allowed to know the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude. The only really safe name is Earnest. Gwendolen, I must get Christian at once. I mean, we must get married at once. There's no time to be lost. Married, Mr. Worthing? Well, surely. You know that I love you, and You lead me to believe, Mrs. Fairfax, that you are not absolutely indifferent to me. I adore you, but you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject has not even been touched on. Well, may I propose to you now? I think it would be an admirable opportunity, and to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I think it only fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I am fully determined to accept you. Gwendolen. Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me? You know what I have got to say to you. Yes, but you don't say it. Gwendolen, will you marry me? He goes on his knees. Of course I will, darling. How long you have been about it. I'm afraid you have had very little experience in how to propose. My own one. I have never loved anyone in the world but you. Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. What wonderfully blue eyes you have, Ernest. They're quite blue. I hope you will always look at me like that, especially when there are other people present. Lady Bracknell enters. Mr. Worthing, rise, sir, from a self-recumbent posture. This is most incredulous. Mamma, he tried to rise. She restrains him. I must beg of you retire. There's no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing is not quite finished yet. Finished what, may I ask? I am engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma. They rise together. Pardon me. You are not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged to someone, I or your father, should his health permit him, would inform you of that fact. An engagement shall come on a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant, as the cause may be. It is hardly a matter that she should be allowed to arrange for herself. And now I have a few questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. While I am making these inquiries, you, Gwendolen, will wait for me below in the carriage. Mamma. In the carriage, Gwendolen. Gwendolen goes to the door. She and Jack blow kisses to each other behind Lady Bracknell's back. Lady Bracknell looks vaguely about as if she could not understand what the noise was. Finally, turns round. Gwendolen, the carriage. Yes, Mamma. She goes out, looking back at Jack. Lady Bracknell sits down. You can take a seat, Mr. Worthing. Looks in her pocket for a notebook and pencil. Thank you, Mr. Bracknell. I prefer standing. Pencil and notebook in hand. I feel bound to tell you that you have not down on my list for eligible young men, although I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Bolton has. We work together, in fact. However, I am quite ready to enter your name, should your answers be what a really affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke? Well, yes, I must admit I smoke. I'm glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you? 29. A very good age to be married at. I've always been in opinion that a man who desires to get married should know either everything or nothing. What do you know? I know nothing, Lady Bracknell. I'm pleased to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate exotic fruit. Touch it and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England, at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would provide a serious danger to the upper class, and probably lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. What is your income? Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year. Lady Bracknell makes a note in her book. In land or investments? In investments, chiefly. That is satisfactory. What, between the duties expected of one during one's lifetime, and the duties exacted from one after one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and prevents one from keeping it up. That's all that can be said about land. I have a country house with some land, of course, attached to it, about 1,500 acres, I believe. But I don't depend on that for my real income. In fact, as far as I can make it out, the poachers are the only people who make anything of it. A country house? How many bedrooms? Well, at that point can be cleared up afterwards. You have a townhouse, I suppose? A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolen can hardly be expected to reside in the country. Well, I own a house in Belgrave Square. It is let by the year to Lady Bloxham. Of course, I can get it back whenever I like, at 6 months' notice. Lady Bloxham? I don't know her. Well, she goes out very little. She's a lady considerably advanced in years. Ah, nowadays there is no guarantee of responsibility of character. What number in Belgrave Square? 149. The unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, that could easily be altered. Do you mean the fashion or the side? Both if necessary. I presume. What are your politics? Well, I'm afraid I really have none. I'm a liberal unionist. Oh, they count as Tories. They dine with us. Or come in the evening, at any rate. Now to minor matters. Are your parents living? I've lost both my parents. Both? That seems like carelessness. Who was your father? He was evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers call the papers of commerce, or did he rise from the ranks of the aristocracy? I'm afraid I don't really know. The fact is, Lady Bracknell, I said I had lost my parents. It would be nearer to the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I don't actually know who I am by birth. I was found. Found? By the late Mr. Thomas Cardew, an old gentleman of very charitable and kindly disposition. Found me, and gave me the name of Worthing. because he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort. Where did the charitable gentleman who had a first-class ticket for the seaside resort find you? In a handbag. A handbag? Yes, Lady Bracknell. I was in a handbag of a somewhat large black leather handbag with handles on it. An ordinary handbag, in fact. In what locality did Mr. James or Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag? In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in a mistake for his own. The cloakroom in Victoria Station? Yes, the Brighton line. The line is immaterial, Mr. Worthing. I confess I feel somewhat bewildered that you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt for the ordinary decency of family life that remind one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to. As for the particular locality in which the handbag was found, a cloakroom at a railway station might serve to conceal a social indiscretion, has probably, indeed, been used for the purpose before now. It could hardly be recognized as an absurd basis for a recognized position in good society. May I ask you, then, what would advise me to do? I need hardly say I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness. I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce at any rate one parent of either sex before the season is quite over. Well, I don't see how I could possibly manage to do that. I can produce the handbag at any moment. It is in my dressing room at home. I really think it would satisfy you, Lady Bracknell. Me, sir! What has it to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell would dream of allowing our daughter, our only daughter, a girl brought up in the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. Good morning, Mr. Worthing. Lady Bracknell sweeps out in majestic indignation. Good morning. Algernon, from the other room, strikes up the wedding march. Jack looks perfectly furious and goes to the door. For goodness sake, don't play that ghastly tune, Algy. How idiotic are you? The music stops, and Algernon enters cheerily. Did it go off all right, old boy? You don't mean to say that Gwendolen refused you? I doubt it is a way she is. She's always refusing people. I think it is most ill-natured of her. Jack. Oh, Gwendolen is all right as a trivet. As far as she is concerned, we are engaged. Her mother is perfectly unbearable. Never met such a gorgon. I don't really know what a gorgon is like, but I am quite sure that Lady Bracknell is one. In any case, she's a monster, without being a myth, which is rather unfair. I beg your pardon, Algy. I suppose I shouldn't talk about your own aunt that way before you. My dear boy, I love hearing my relations absurd. It is the only thing that makes me put up with them at all. Relations are simply a tedious pack of people who haven't got the remotest knowledge of how to live, nor the smallest instinct about when to die. Oh, that is nonsense. It isn't. Well, I won't argue about the matter. You always want to argue about things. That is exactly what things were originally made for. Upon my word, if I thought that, I'd shoot myself. You don't think there is any chance of Gwendolen becoming like her mother in about 150 years, do you, Algy? All women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. No man does. That's his. Is that clever? It is perfectly phrased, and quite as true as any observation in civilized life should be. I'm sick to death of cleverness. Everybody is clever nowadays. You can't go anywhere without meeting clever people. The thing has become an absolute public nuisance. I wish to goodness we had a few fools left. We have. I should extremely like to meet them. What do they talk about? The fools? Oh, the clever people, of course. The fool! By the way, did you tell Gwendolen about the truth about your being Earnest in town and Jack in the country? My dear fellow, the truth isn't quite the sort of thing that one tells to a nice, sweet, refined girl. What extraordinary ideas you have about the way to behave to a woman. The only way to behave to a woman is to make her love her, if she's pretty, and to someone else if she's plain. Oh, that is nonsense. What about your brother? What about the profligate Earnest? Oh, by the end of the week I shall have got rid of him. I'll say he died in Paris of apoplexy. Lots of people died apoplexy quite suddenly, don't they? Yes, but it's hereditary, my dear fellow. It's a sort of thing that runs in families. You had much better say a severe chill. You are sure a severe chill isn't hereditary, or anything of that kind? Of course it isn't. Very well, then. My poor brother Earnest is carried off suddenly in Paris by a severe chill. That gets rid of him. But I thought that you said that Miss Cardew was a little too much interested in your poor brother Earnest. Won't she feel has lost a great deal? Oh, that is all right. Cicely is not a silly romantic girl, I'm glad to say. She's got a capital appetite, goes for long walks, and pays no attention at all to her lessons. I'd rather like to see Cicely. I will take very good care you never do. She is excessively pretty, and she is only just 18. Have you told Gwendolen yet that you have an excessively pretty ward who's only just 18? Oh, one doesn't blurt these things out to people. Cecily and Gwendolen are perfectly certain to be extremely good friends. I'll bet you anything that half an hour after they had met, they'll be calling each other sister. Women only do that when they have called each other a lot of other things first. Now, my dear boy, if you want to get a good table at Willis's, we must really go and dress. Do you know it is nearly 7? Oh, it is always nearly 7. Well, I'm hungry. I never knew you'd when you weren't. What shall we do after dinner? Go to a theatre? No, I loathe listening. Well, let's go to the club. No, I hate talking. Well, we might trot around to the Empire at 10. No, I can't bear looking at things. It's so silly. Well, what should we do? Well, what shall we do? Nothing. It's awfully hard work doing nothing. However, I don't mind hard work where there is no definite object of any kind. Lane enters. Lane, Mr. Fairfax. Enter Gwendolen. Lane goes out. Gwendolen, upon my word. Algy, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Miss Worthing. Really, Gwendolen, I don't think I can allow this at all. Algy, you always adopt a strictly immoral attitude towards life. You're not quite old enough to do that. Algernon retires to the fireplace. Jack, my own darling. Gwendolen. Earnest, we may never be married. From the expression on Mamma's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regard to what their children say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Whatever influence I had over Mamma, I lost at the age of 3. But although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else, and marry often, nothing that she can possibly do can alter my eternal devotion to you. Dear Gwendolen, the story of your romantic origin, as related to me by Mamma, with unpleasing comments, has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination. The simplicity of your character makes you exquisitely incomprehensible to me. Your town address at the Albany. May I have it? What is your address in the country? The Manor House, Woolton, Hertfordshire. Algernon, who has been carefully listening, smiles to himself and writes the address on his shirt cuff, then picks up the railway guide. There's a good postal service, I suppose. It may be necessary to do something desperate. That, of course, will require serious consideration. I'll communicate with you daily. My own one. How long do you remain in town? Till Monday. Good. Algy, you may turn around now. Algernon. Thank you. I've turned around already. You may also ring the bell. Jack. You will let me see you do your carriage, my own darling. Certainly. Jack to Lane, who now enters. I will see Miss Fairfax out. Lane. Yes, sir. Jack and Gwendolen go off. Lane presents several letters on a slaver to Algernon. It is to be surmised they are bills, as Algernon, after looking at the envelopes, tears them up. Algernon. A glass of sherry, Lane. Yes, sir. Tomorrow, Lane, I'm going Bunburying. Yes, sir. I shall probably not be back till Monday. You can put on my dress clothes, my smoking jacket, and all the Bunbury suits. Yes, sir. I hope tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane. It never is, sir. Lane, you are a perfect pessimist. I do my best to give satisfaction, sir. Jack enters. Lane goes off. Jack. There's a sensible, intellectual girl. The only girl I could ever care for in my life. Algernon is laughing immoderately. What on earth are you so amused at? I'm a little anxious about poor Bunbury, that's all. If you don't take care, your friend Bunbury will get you into serious scrape some day. I love scrapes. They're the only things that never are serious. Oh, that's nonsense, Algy. You never talk anything but nonsense. Nobody ever does. Jack looks indignantly at him and leaves the room. Algernon lights a cigarette, reads his shirt cuff, and smiles. End of Act 1. Act 2. Scene. Garden at the Manor House. A flight of grey stone steps leads up to the house. The garden, an old-fashioned one, full of roses. Time of year, July. Basket chairs and a table covered with books are set under a large yew tree. Miss Prism discovered seated at a table. Cicely is at the back watering flowers. Miss Prism. Cicely, surely such a utilitarian occupation as watering the flowers is rather Martin's duty than yours, especially at a moment when intellectual pleasures await you. Your German grammar is on the table. Pray, open it at page 15. We will repeat yesterday's lesson. Cicely, coming over very slowly. But I don't like German. It isn't at all becoming language. I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after my German lesson. Mrs. Prim. Child, you know how anxious your guardian is. You should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German, as he has leaving town for yesterday. Indeed, he always lays stress on your German when he is leaving for town. Dear Uncle Jack, oh, so serious. Sometimes he is so serious I think he cannot be quite well. Your guardian enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanour is especially to commend in one so comparatively young as he is. I know no one who has a higher sense of duty and responsibility. I suppose that is why he often looks a little bored when we three are together. Cicely, I am surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. Idle merriment and triviality would be out of the place in this conversation. You must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, his brother. I wish Uncle Jack would allow the unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometimes. We might have a good influence over him, Miss Prism. I am sure you certainly would. You know, German and geology and things of that kind influence a man very much. Cicely begins to write in her diary. I do not think that even I could produce any effect on a character that, according to his brother's admission, is regrettably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I am not sure I would desire to reclaim him. I am not in favour of this modern mania for turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so let him reap. You must put away your diary, Cicely. I really don't see why you should keep a diary at all. I keep a diary in order to entertain the wonderful secrets of my life. If I don't write them down, I should probably forget all of them. Memory, my dear Cicely, is a diary we shall carry about with us. Yes, but it usually chronicles the things that have never happened, and couldn't possibly have happened. I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all the 3-volume novels that mirror these senses. Do not speak silently of the 3-volume novel, Cicely. I wrote one myself in earlier days. Did you really, Mrs. Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They distress me so much. The good ended happily, and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means. I suppose so, but it seems very unfair. And was your novel ever published? Alas, no. The manuscript, unfortunately, was abandoned. I use the word in the sense of lost or mislaid. Do your work, child. These speculations are pointless. These speculations are profitless. But I see a dear Mr. Chosble coming up the garden. Dr. Chosble, this is indeed a pleasure. Enter Canon Chosble.
How are we this morning, Mrs. Prim? You are, I trust, well.
Mrs. Prim has just been complaining of a slight headache. I think it would do her so much good to have a short stroll with you in the park, Dr. Chosble. Cicely, I have not mentioned anything about a headache. No, dear Mrs. Prim, I know that, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Indeed, I was thinking about that and not about my German lesson when the rector came in.
I hope, Cicely, you are not inattentive.
Oh, I am afraid I am.
That is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Mrs. Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. Mrs. Prism glares. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees. Mr. Worthing, I suppose, has not returned from town yet?
We don't expect him till Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes, he usually likes to spend his Sunday in London. He is not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, as by all accounts that unfortunate young man his brother seems to be. But I must not disturb Egira and her pupil any longer.
Egira? My name is Laeta, Doctor.
A classical allusion merely, drawn from the pagan authors. I shall see you both, no doubt, at Evensong.
I think, dear Doctor, I will have a stroll with you. I have found a headache after all. A walk may do it good.
With pleasure, Mrs. Prism, with pleasure. We might go as far as the schools and back.
That would be delightful. Cicely, you will read your political economy in my absence. The chapter on the fall of the rupee, may you admit, is somewhat too sensational. Even these metallic problems have their own melodramatic side.
She goes down the garden with Dr. Chosble. Cicely picks up the books and throws them back on the table.
Horrid political economy, horrid geography, horrid German.
Enter Marion with a card on a slipper. Marion, Mr. Earnest Worthing has just driven over from the station. He has brought his luggage with him. Cicely takes the card and reads it.
Mr. Earnest Worthing, B4 the Albany. W. Uncle Jack's brother? Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss. He seems very much disappointed. I mentioned that you and Mrs. Prism were in the garden. He said he was anxious to speak to you privately for a moment.
Ask Mr. Earnest Worthing to come here. I suppose you had better talk to the housekeeper about a room for him.
Yes, miss. Marion goes off.
I've never met any real wicked person before. I feel rather frightened. I'm so afraid he will look like everyone else.
Enter Algernon, very gay and debonair.
He does.
Algernon, raising his hat.
So, you are my little cousin, Cicely, I'm sure. You are under some strange mistake. I am not little. In fact, I am more than usually tall for my age.
Algernon is rather taken aback.
But I am your cousin, Cicely. You, I see from your card, are Uncle Jack's brother, my cousin Earnest, my wicked cousin Earnest. Oh, I'm not really wicked at all, cousin Cicely. You mustn't think that I am wicked. If you are not, then you have certainly been deceiving us all in a very inexcusable manner. I hope you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and being really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy. Algernon looks at her in amazement. Oh, of course I have been rather reckless. I'm glad to hear it. In fact, now that you mention the subject, I've been very bad in my own small way. I don't think you should be very proud of that, though I'm sure it must have been very pleasant. It's much pleasanter here, being with you. I can't understand how you are here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back till Monday afternoon. That is a great disappointment. I am obliged to go up by the first train on Monday morning. I have a business appointment that I am anxious to miss. Couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London? No, the appointment is in London. Well, I know, of course, but how important it is not to keep a business engagement, if one wants to retain any sense of the beauty of life. But still, I think you had better wait till Uncle Jack arrives. I know he wants to speak to you about your immigrating. About my what? Your immigrating. He has gone up to buy your outfit. I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He has no taste in neckties at all. I don't think you will require neckties. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia. Australia? I'd soon die. Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday night that you would have to choose between this world and the next world in Australia. Oh, well, what the accounts I've received of Australia and the next world are not particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, Cousin Cecily. Yes, but are you good enough for it? I'm afraid I'm not that. That is why I want you to reform me. You might make that a mission if you don't mind, Cousin Cecily. I'm afraid I'm not the time this afternoon. Well, would you mind my reforming myself this afternoon? That is very chaotic of you, but I think you should try. I will. I feel better already. You are looking a little worse. That is because I am hungry. How thoughtless of me. I should have remembered that when one is gone to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in? Thank you. Might I have a buttonhole first? I've never had any appetite unless I have a buttonhole first. Marcy O'Neill picks up some scissors. No, I'd sooner have a pink rose. Why? She cuts a flower. Because you are like a pink rose, Cousin Cecily. I don't think it'd be right for you to talk to me like that. Mrs. Prism never says such things to me. Then Mrs. Prism is a short-sighted old lady. Cecily puts the rose in his buttonhole. You are the prettiest girl I ever saw. Mrs. Prism says that all good looks are a snare, and they are a snare that every sensible man would like to be caught in. Oh, I don't think I would care to catch a sensible man. I shouldn't know what to talk to him about. They pass into the house. Miss Prism and Dr. Cosable return. You are too much alone, dear Cosable. You should get married. A misanthrope, I can understand. A womanthrope, never.
Believe me, I do not deserve so neologistic a phrase. The precept as well as the practice of the primitive church was distinctly against matrimony.
That is obviously the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up to the present day. And you do not seem to realize, dear doctor, that by presently remaining single, a man converts himself to permanent public temptation. Men should be cheerful. This very celibacy leads weaker vessels astray.
But is a man not equally attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive except his wife.
And often, I've been told, not even to her.
That depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can always be deepened. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women are green. I spoke horticulturally. My metaphor was drawn from fruits. But where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools.
Enter Jack, slowly from the back of the garden. He is dressed in the deepest mourning, with a crepe hatband and black gloves. Mr. Worthing!
Mr. Worthing?
This is indeed a surprise. We did not look for you until Monday afternoon. Jack shakes Mrs. Prism's hand in a tragic manner. I have returned sooner than I expected. Dr. Choswell, I hope you're well.
Dear Mr. Worthing, I trust this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother. Most shameful debts and extravagance.
Still leading his life of pleasure.
Jack shakes his head.
Dead? Your brother Ernest dead?
Quite dead. What a lesson for him! I trust he will profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, I offer you my sincere condolence. You have at least the consolidation of knowing that you were always the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Poor Ernest. He had many faults, but it is a sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No. He died abroad, in Paris, in fact. I had a telegram last night from the Manor, the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of his death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems. As a man sows, so he shall reap.
Coswell raises his hand. Charity, dear Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. I myself am particularly susceptible to draughts. Will the intermarriage take place here?
No, he seems to have expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris? I fear that. hardly points to any serious state of mind at the last. You would no doubt wish me to take some slight allusion to this tragic domestic affliction next Saturday. My sermon on the meaning of manna in the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion, joyful or, in the present case, distressing. I have preached it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, on days of humiliation, and festival days. The last time I delivered it was in the cathedral, as a charity sermon on behalf of the Society for the Prevention of Discontentment among the upper orders. The bishop, who was present, was much struck by some of the analogies I drew. Ah, that reminds me. You mentioned christenings, I think, Dr. Cospel. I suppose you know how to christen, all right? I mean, of course, you are continuously christening, aren't you?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in this parish. I've often spoke to the poor classes on the subject, but I don't seem to know what thrift is.
But is there any particular infant in whom you are interested, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was, I believe, unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes. People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But it is not for any child, Doctor. I'm very fond of children. No, the fact is, I would like to be christened myself this afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already?
I don't remember anything about it.
But have you any grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly intend to have, of course. I don't know if the thing would bother you in any way, or if you think I am a little too old now.
Not at all. The sprinkling, and indeed the immersion of adults, is perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion?
You need have no apprehensions. Sprinkling is all that is necessary, or indeed I think advisable. Our weather is so changeable. At what hour would you wish the ceremony performed?
Oh, I might trot around about 5. That would suit you.
Perfectly, perfectly. In fact, I have 2 similar ceremonies to perform at that time. A case of twins that occurred recently in one of the outlying cottages of your own estate. Poor Jenkins, the charter, most hard-working man.
Oh, I don't see much fun in being christened along with babies. It would be childish. Would 5:30 do?
Admirably, admirably. Takes out his watch. And now, dear Mr. Worthing, I will not intrude any longer in our house sorrow. I would merely beg you not to be too much bowed down by grief. What seems to us bitter trials at the moment are often blessings in disguise.
There seems to be a blessing of extremely obvious kind.
Cecily enters from the house.
Uncle Jack, I'm pleased to see you back. But what horrid clothes you have on. Do go and change them.
Cecily!
My child, my child. Cecily goes towards Jack. He kisses her on the brow in a melancholy manner.
What is the matter, Uncle Jack? Do look happy. You look as if you had a toothache, and I have such a surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother.
Who?
Your brother Earnest. He arrived half an hour ago. What nonsense! I haven't got a brother. Oh, don't say that. However badly he may have behaved to you in the past, he's still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I'll tell him to come out, and you'll shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
She runs back into the house. These are joyous tidings.
After all, we have been resigned to his loss. This sudden return seems to me particularly distressing.
My brother is in the dining room? I don't know what it all means. I think this perfectly absurd.
Enter Algernon and Cecily, hand in hand. They come slowly up to Jack.
Good heavens! Motions Algernon away. Algernon. Brother John, I've come down from town to tell you I'm very sorry for all the trouble I've given you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Jack glares at him and does not take his hand.
Uncle Jack, you are not going to refuse your own brother's hand?
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think his coming down here disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. There's good in everyone. Earnest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Brunbury, whom he goes to visit so often, and surely there may be much good in one who is kind to an invalid, and leaves the pleasures of London to sit by a bed of pain.
Oh, he has been talking about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he's told me all about poor Mr. Brunbury and his terrible state of health.
Bunbury? Well, I wouldn't have him talk to you about Bunbury or anything else. It is enough to drive one perfectly frantic. Algernon.
Of course I admit the faults were all on my side, but I must say that I think that Brother John's coldness to me is perfectly painful. I expected a more enthusiastic welcome, especially considering it is the first time I've come here.
Cecily.
Uncle Jack, why don't you shake hands with Earnest? I shall never forgive you.
Jack.
Never forgive me? Never, never, never. Well, that is the last time I shall ever do it. Shakes hands with Algernon and glares.
It is pleasant, is it not, to see so perfect a reconciliation? I think we might leave the 2 brothers together.
Cecily, will you come with us?
Certainly, Miss Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over.
You have done a beautiful action today, dear child.
We must not premate in our judgments. I feel very happy.
They all go off. Jack. You young scoundrel, Algy. You must get out of this place as soon as possible. I don't allow any bunburying here. And to Marion. I put Mr. Earnest's things in the room next to yours, sir. I suppose it is all right. What? Mr. Earnest's luggage, sir. I've unpacked it and put it in the room next to yours. His luggage? Yes, sir. 3 portmanteauses, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a large luncheon basket.
Algernon. I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
Merriman, order a dog cart at once.
Mr. Earnest has been suddenly called back to town.
Yes, sir.
Goes back into the house.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I've not been called back to town at all. Yes, you have. I haven't heard anyone call me. Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with all my pleasures in the smallest degree.
I can quite understand that.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
You're not to talk of Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why on earth don't you go up and change? It's perfectly childish to be in deep mourning for a man who is actually staying for a whole week with you in your house as a guest. I call it grotesque.
You are certainly not staying with me for a whole week, as a guest or anything else. You've got to leave, by the 4:05 train.
I certainly won't leave you so long as you are in mourning. It would be most unfriendly. If I were in mourning, you would stay with me, I suppose. I should think it very unkind if you didn't.
Well, will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, if you are not too long. I never saw anybody take so long to dress, with such a little result.
Well, at any rate, that is better than being always overdressed as you are.
If I am occasionally a little overdressed, I make up for it for always being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous, your conduct an outrage, and your presence in my garden utterly absurd. However, you've got to check the 4:05, and I hope you will have a pleasant journey back to town. This bunburying, you call it, has not been a great success for you.
Goes into the house. I think it's been a great success. I'm in love with Cecily, and that is everything.
Enters Cecily at the back garden. She picks up the can and begins to water flowers.
But I must see her before I go and make arrangements for another bunbury. Ah, there she is.
Cecily.
Oh, I merely came back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
Algernon. He's gone to order the dog cart for me.
Oh, he's going to take you for a nice drive.
He's going to send me away.
I'm afraid so. It's a very painful parting. It's always painful to part with people whom once had known for a very brief space of time. The absence of old friends one can endure with equanimity. But even a momentary separation from anyone to whom one has just been introduced is almost unbearable.
Thank you. Enter Marion. The dog cart is at the door, sir.
Algernon, looking appealingly at Cecily. It can wait, Marion, for 5 minutes.
Yes, miss.
Marion exits.
Algernon. I hope, Cecily, I have not offended you if I state quite frankly and openly that you seem to me to be in every way the most visible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Earnest. If you will allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
Goes over to the table and begins writing in her diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I'd give anything to look at it, may I? Oh, no, puts her hand over it. You see, it's very simple, a young girl's record of all her own thoughts and impressions, and consequently meant for publication. When it appears in volume form, I do hope you'll order a copy, but pray, Ernest, don't stop. I delight in taking down from dictation. I've quite reached absolute perfection. You can go on. I'm quite ready for more. Oh, don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell cough.
Cecily, ever since I first looked upon your lovely and wonderful, incomparable beauty, I've dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, and hopelessly.
I don't think you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily. Merriman enters. The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Algernon. Tell her to come round next week, the same hour.
Merriman looks at Cecily and makes a sign. Yes, sir.
Merriman retires. Cecily. Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed if he knew you were staying on till next week at the same hour.
Algernon. Oh, I don't care about Uncle Jack. I don't care for anybody in the whole world but you.
I love you, Cecily. You'll marry me, won't you? You silly you. Of course. Why, we've been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months?
Yes, it would be exactly 3 months on Thursday. But how did we become engaged? Well, ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and very bad, you, of course, had formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And, of course, a man who is much talked about is always very attractive. One feels there must be some thing in him, after all. I dare say it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Darling, And when was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to end the matter one way or the other, and after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under the dear old tree here. The next day I bought this little ring in your name, and this is the little bangle with the true lover's knot I promised. I promised you always to wear.
Did I give you this? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you've wonderfully good taste, Earnest. It is the excuse I've always given for your leading such a bad life. This is the box which I keep in all your dear letters. Kneels at the table, opens the box, and produces letters tied up with blue ribbon.
My letters! By my own sweet Cecily, I had never written you any letters.
You need hardly remind me of that, Earnest. I remember only too well that I was forced to write your letters for you. I wrote always 3 times a week, and sometimes oftener.
Oh, do let me read them, Cecily.
Oh, I couldn't possibly. They make you far too conceited. She replaces the box. The 3 you wrote me after I had broken off the engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelled that even now I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But our engagement was broken off?
Of course it was, on the 22nd of last March. You can see the entry if you like. She shows the diary. Today I broke off my engagement with Earnest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather still continues charming.
But why on earth did you break it off? What had I done? I'd done nothing at all, Cecilia. I'm very hurt indeed to hear you broke it off, particularly when the weather was so charming.
It would hardly have been a really serious engagement if I hadn't broken off at least once, but I forgave you before the week was out.
Algernon crosses to her and kneels. What a perfect angel you are, Cecily.
You dear romantic boy. He kisses her. She puts her fingers through his hair. I hope your hair curls naturally, does it?
Yes, darling, with a little help from others.
I'm so glad.
You'll never break off our engagement again, Cecily.
I don't think I could ever break it off now that I've actually met you. Besides, of course, there's the question of your name.
Yes, of course.
You must not laugh at me, darling. It has always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name was Earnest. Algernon rises, and Cecily does also. There's something in that name that seems to inspire absolute confidence. I pity any poor married woman whose husband is not called Earnest.
But, my dear child, you mean to say that you could not love me if I had some other name?
Oh, any name you like Algernon, for instance. But I don't like the name of Algernon.
Well, my dear sweet,
loving little darling, I can't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It's not a bad name. In fact, it is a rather aristocratic name. Half the chaps who live in the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But seriously, Cecily, he moves to her, if my name was Algy, couldn't you love me? Cecily rises. I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I fear I should not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, he picks up his head. Your rector is here, I suppose, thoroughly experienced in the practice of all the rites and ceremonies of the church.
Oh, yes. Dr. Coswell is a most learned man. He's never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must see to him at once. The most important christening. On the most important business.
Oh,
I shan't be away more than half an hour.
Considering that we have been engaged since February the 14th, and that I only met you today for the first time, I think it's rather hard that you should leave me for so long a period as half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
He kisses her and rushes down the garden. What an impetuous boy he is. I like his hair so much. I must enter his proposals in my diary.
Marian enters. Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing. A very important business, Mr. Fairfax states.
Certainly. Isn't Mr. Worthing in his library?
Mr. Worthing went out in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Pray ask the lady to come out here, Mr. Worthing. Mr. Worthing is sure to be back soon. And you can bring tea.
Yes, miss.
Merriman exits. Miss Fairfax, I suppose one of the many good elderly women who are associated with Uncle Jack in some of his philanthropic work in London. I don't quite like women who are interested in philanthropic work. I think it's so forward of them. Enter Merriman.
Mrs. Fairfax.
Enter Gwendolen. Exit Merriman. Cecily, advancing to meet her. Pray, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew. Gwendolen. Cecily Cardew? Moving to her and shaking hands. What a very sweet name. Something tells me we are going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong. Cecily. How nice of you to like me so much after we have known each other such a comparatively short time. Pray, sit down. Gwendolen, still standing up. I may call you Cecily, may I not? With pleasure. And you will always call me Gwendolen, won't you? If you wish. Then it is all quite settled, is it not? I hope so. A pause. They both sit down together. Gwendolen. Perhaps this may be a favourable opportunity for my mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. Have you ever heard of Papa, I suppose? I don't think so. Outside the family circle, Papa, I am glad to say, is entirely unknown. I think that is quite as it should be. The home seems to be the proper sphere for a man. And certainly, once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, does he not? And I don't like that. It makes men so very attractive. Cecily, Mamma, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. It is part of her system. So you don't mind my looking at you through my glasses? Oh, not at all, Gwendolen. I'm very fond of being looked at. Gwendolen, after examining Cecily carefully through a lorgnette. You have come on a short visit, I suppose. Oh, no, I live here. Really? Your mother, no doubt, or some female relative of advanced years, resides here also? Oh, no, I've no mother, no, in fact, any relations. Indeed. My dear guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me. Your guardian? Yes, I'm Mr. Worthing's ward. Oh, it is strange he never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interestingly hourly. I'm not sure, however, that the news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight. Rising and going to her. I'm very fond of you, Cecily. I have liked you ever since I met you. But I am bound to state that now I know you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I cannot help expressing a wish that you were, well, just a little older than you seem to be, and not quite so alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly, Cecily, pray do. I think that whenever has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid. Gwendolen, well, to speak with a perfect candour, Cecily, I wish you were fully 42, and more than usually plain for your age. Earnest has a strong, upright nature. He is the very soul of truth and honour. Disloyalty would be as impossible to him as deception. But even men of the noblest possible moral character are extremely susceptible to the influence of the physical charms of others. Modern, no less than ancient history, supplies us with many most painful examples of what I refer to. If it were not so, indeed, history would be quite unreadable. Cecily. I beg your pardon, Gwendolen. Did you say Ernest? Gwendolen. Yes. Cecily. But it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother, his elder brother. Gwendolen sits down. Ernest never mentioned to me he had a brother. Cecily. I am sorry to say that we have not been good terms for a long time. Gwendolen. Ah, that accounts for it. And now that I think of it, I have never heard any man mention his brother. The subject seems distasteful to most men. Cecily, you have lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would have been terrible if any cloud had come across a friendship like ours. Would it not? Of course you are quite sure it is not Mr. Ernest. It is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian. Cecily, quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his. Gwendolen, I beg your pardon. Cecily, dearest Gwendolen, there's no reason I should make a secret of it to you. Our little country newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact next week. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married. Gwendolen, my darling Cecily, I think there must be some slight error. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will appear in the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest. Cecily, I'm afraid you must be under some misconception. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago. She shows her diary. Gwendolen examines the diary through her lorgnette carefully. It is certainly very curious, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. You'd care to verify the incident? Pray do. Produces a diary of her own. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read in the train. I'm so sorry, dear Cecily, if it is any disappointment to you, but I'm afraid that I have the prior claim. Cecily, it would distress me more than I can tell you, dear Gwendolen, if it caused you any mental or physical anguish. But I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to you, he's clearly changed his mind. Gwendolen, if the poor fellow has been entrapped into a foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand. Cecily, whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have gotten you into, I shall never approach him with it after we are married. Gwendolen, do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. An occasion of this kind becomes more of a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure. Cecily, do you suggest, Mr. Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? There's no time for wearing the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade. Gwendolen, I am glad to say that I have never seen a spade. It is obvious that our social spheres have been widely different. Marian enters, followed by the footman. He carries a slaver, tablecloth, and a plate stand. Cecily is about to retort. The presence of the servants exercises a restraining influence under which both girls chafe. Merriman, shall I lay the tea here as usual, miss? Cecily, yes, as usual.
Merman begins to clear and lay cloth. Cecily and Gwendolen glare at each other. Gwendolen. Are there many interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew? Cecily. Oh, yes, a great many. From the top of the hills, quite close, one can see 5 counties. Gwendolen. 5 counties? I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds. Cecily. I suppose that's why you live in town? Gwendolen bites her lips and beats her foot nervously with her parasol. Gwendolen looks around. Quite a well-kept garden this is, Mrs. Cardew. So you like it, Mrs. Fairfax? I had no idea there were flowers in the country. Oh, flowers are common here, Mrs. Fairfax, as people are in London. Gwendolen. Personally, I cannot understand how anybody managed to exist in the country. If anybody who is anybody does, the country always bores me. The country always bores me to death. Cecily. Ah, is this what the newspaper called agricultural depression, is it not? I believe the aristocracy are suffering very much from it just at present. It is almost an epidemic amongst them, I have been told. May I offer you some tea, Mrs. Fairfax? Gwendolen. Thank you, detestable girl, but I require tea. Cecily. Sugar? Gwendolen. No, thank you. Sugar is not fashionable anymore. Cecily looks angrily at her, picks up the tongs, and puts 4 lumps of sugar in the cup. Cecily. Cake or bread and butter, Gwendolen? Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen at the best houses nowadays. Cecily cuts a very large slice of cake and puts it on the tray. Hand that to Mrs. Fairfax. Merman does so and goes out with the footman. Gwendolen drinks the tea, makes a grimace, puts the cup down at once, reaches her hand out to the bread and butter, looks at it, finds it is cake, and rises in indignation. Gwendolen. You filled my tea with lumps of sugar, and I thought I asked most distinctly for bread and butter, and you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature. But I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far. Cecily, rising. To save my poor innocent trusting boy from the machinations of any girl, there are no lengths of which I will not go. Gwendolen. The moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I felt you were false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such matters. My first impressions of people are invariably right. Cecily. It seems to me, Mrs. Fairfax, that I am trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you have many other calls of similar character to make in the neighbourhood. Jack enters. Gwendolen. Sorry about him. Ernest! My own Ernest. Jack. Gwendolen, darling. Offers to kiss her. Gwendolen, drawing back. A moment. May I ask if you are engaged to be married to this young lady? She points at Cecily. To dear little Cecily? Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head? Thank you. You may. She offers her cheek. Cecily. I knew there must be some misunderstanding. Mr. Fairfax, the gentleman whom arm is at present around your waist is my dear guardian, Mr. John Worthing. Gwendolen. I beg your pardon. Cecily. This is Uncle Jack. Gwendolen. Jack? Oh. Algernon enters. Cecily. Here is Ernest. Algernon goes straight over to Cecily without noticing anyone else. My love. Offers to kiss her. Cecily, drawing back. A moment, Ernest. May I ask you, are you engaged to be married to this young lady? Algernon looks around. To what young lady? Good heavens, Gwendolen. Cecily. Yes, good heavens, Gwendolen. I mean to Gwendolen. Algernon. Of course not. What could have put an idea into your pretty little head? Cecily. Thank you. Presenting her cheek to be kissed. You may. Algernon kisses her. Gwendolen. I feel there is some slight error, Miss Cardew. The gentleman who is now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief. Cecily, breaking away from Algernon. Algernon Moncrief? Oh. The 2 girls move towards each other and put their arms around each other's waists, as if for protection. Cecily. Are you called Algernon? I cannot deny it. Oh. Gwendolen. Is your name really John? Jack, standing rather proudly. I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. But my name certainly is John. It has been John for years. Cecily to Gwendolen. A gross deception has been practised on both of us. Gwendolen. My poor wounded Cecily. My sweet wronged Gwendolen. Gwendolen, slowly and seriously. You will call me sister, will you not? They embrace. Jack and Algernon groan and walk up and down. Cecily. There's just one question I would like to ask to my guardian. Gwendolen. An admirable idea. Mr. Worthing, there's just one question I would like to be permitted to put to you. Where is your brother Earnest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Earnest, so it is a matter of some importance to us to know where your brother Earnest is at present. Jack. Gwendolen. Cecily, it is very painful to me to be forced to speak the truth. It is the first time in my life that I have ever been reduced to such a painful position.
and I'm really quite inexperienced in doing anything of the kind. However, I will tell you quite frankly that I have no brother, Ernest. I have no brother at all. I never had a brother in my life, and I certainly have not the smallest intention of ever having one in the future. Cecily. No brother at all? None. Gwendolen. Have you ever had a brother of any kind? No, never. Not even of any kind. Gwendolen. I'm afraid that is quite clear, Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone. Cecily. It is not a very pleasant position for a young girl to suddenly find herself in, is it? Gwendolen. Let us go into the house. They will hardly venture to come and ask for us. Cecily. No, men are so cowardly, aren't they? They retire into the house with scornful looks. Jack. This ghastly state of things is what you call bunburying, I suppose. Algernon. Yes, and a perfectly wonderful bunbury it is. The most wonderful bunbury I've ever had in my life. Well, you don't right whatsoever to bunbury here. That is absurd. One has every right. One has a right to bunbury anywhere he chooses. Every serious bunburyist knows that. Serious bunburyist? Good heavens. Well, one must be serious about something. If one wants to have any amusement in life, I happen to be serious about bunburying. What on earth are you serious about? I haven't got the remotest idea. About everything, I should fancy. You have such an absolutely trivial nature. Well, the only small satisfaction I have in the whole of this wretched business is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You won't be able to run down the country quite so often as you used to, dear Algy, and a very good thing, too. Your brother is a little off-colour, isn't he, dear Jack? You won't be able to disappear to London quite so frequently as your wicked custom was, and not a bad thing either. As for your conduct towards Miss Cardew, I must say that your talking in a sweet, simple, innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable, to say nothing of the fact that she is my ward. I can see no possible defence at all for your deceiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Mrs. Fairfax, to say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin. I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolen, that is all. I love her. Well, I simply wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her. There's certainly no chance of your marrying Miss Cardew. I don't think there's much likelihood, Jack, of you and Mrs. Fairfax being united. Well, that is no business of yours. If it was my business, I wouldn't talk about it. He begins to eat muffins. It's very vulgar to talk about one's business. Only people like stockbrokers do that. And then merely at dinner parties. How can you sit there, calmly eating muffins, when we are in this horrible trouble? I can't make out. You seem to me perfectly heartless. Well, I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner. The butter would probably get on my cuffs. One should always eat muffins quite calmly. It is the only way to eat muffins. I say it's perfectly heartless you're eating muffins at all, under the circumstances. When I am in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I am in really great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything except food and drink. At the present moment I am eating muffins because I am unhappy. Besides, I am particularly fond of muffins. He rises. Jack also rises. Whereas there's no reason why you should eat them all in such a greedy way. Takes a muffin from Algernon. Algernon offers a tea cake. I wish you would have tea cake instead. I don't like tea cake. Good heavens! I suppose a man may eat his own muffins in his own garden. But you've just said it was perfectly heartless to eat muffins. I've said it was perfectly heartless of you under the circumstances. That is a very different thing. That may be, but the muffins are the same. He seizes the muffin dish from Jack. Algy, I wish to goodness you would go. You can't possibly ask me to go without having some dinner. It is absurd. I never go without my dinner. No one ever does. It's vegetarians and people like that. Besides, I've just made arrangements with Dr. Cosgrove to be christened at 6:15 under the name of Earnest. My dear fellow, the sooner you give that up. Nonsense, the better. I made arrangements this morning with Cosgrove to be christened myself at 5:30, and I naturally will take the name of Earnest. Gwendolen would wish it. We can't both be christened Earnest. It's absurd. Besides, I have a perfect right to be christened if I like. There's no evidence at all that I've ever been christened to anybody. I should think it extremely probable I never was, and so does Dr. Cosgrove. It is entirely different in your case. You have been christened already. Yes, but I have not been christened for years. Yes, but you have been christened. That is the important thing. Quite so. So I know my constitution can stand it. If you are not quite sure about your ever having been christened, I must say I think it rather dangerous your venturing on it now. It might make you very unwell. You can hardly have forgotten that someone very closely connected you was very nearly carried off this week in Paris by a severe chill. Yes, but you said yourself that a severe chill is hereditary. It used to be. I know. But I dare say it is now. Science is always making wonderful improvements in things. Jack picks up the muffin dish. Oh, this is nonsense. You are always talking nonsense. Jack, you are at the muffins again. I wish you wouldn't. There are only 2 left. He takes them. I told you I wasn't particularly fond of muffins. But I hate tea cake. Why on earth then do you allow tea cake to be served up for your guests?
What ideas have you of hospitality? Algernon, I've already told you to go. I don't want you here. Why don't you go? I haven't quite finished my tea yet. And there's still one muffin yet. Jack groans and sinks into a chair. Algernon continues eating. Curtain. End of Act 2. Act 3. Scene. Morning room at the manor house. Gwendolen and Cecily are at the window, looking out into the garden. Gwendolen. The fact that they did not follow us once into the house as anyone else would have done seems to me to show that they have some sense of shame left. Cecily. They've been eating muffins. That looks like repentance. They don't seem to notice us at all. Could you cough? They're looking at us. What effrontery. Cecily. They're approaching. That's very forward of them. Gwendolen. Let us preserve a dignified silence. Cecily. Certainly. It is the only thing to do now. Enter Jack, followed by Algernon. They whistle some dreadful popular air from a British opera. Gwendolen. This dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect. Cecily. A most distasteful one. Gwendolen. But we'll not have to be first to speak. Cecily. Certainly not. Gwendolen. Mr. Worthing, I have something very particular to ask you. Much depends on your reply. Cecily. Gwendolen, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Monsieur, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother? Algernon. In order that I may have an opportunity of meeting you. Cecily. To Gwendolen. That certainly seems a satisfactory explanation, does it not? Gwendolen. Yes, dear, if you can believe him. Cecily. I don't. But that does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer. Gwendolen. True. It matters of grave importance. Style, not sincerity, is a vital thing. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer to me for pretending to have a brother? Was it in order that he might have an opportunity of coming up to town to see me as often as possible? Jack. Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax? Gwendolen. I have the gravest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. This is not the moment for German skepticism. Moving to Cecily. Their explanations appear to be quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. That seems to me to have the stamp of truth on it. Cecily. I am more than content with what Mr. Moncey said. His voice alone inspires one with absolute credulity. Gwendolen. Then you think we should forgive them? Cecily. Yes. I mean, no. Gwendolen. True. I had forgotten. There are principles at stake that one cannot surrender. Which of us should tell them? The task is not a pleasant one. Cecily. Could we not speak at the same time? Gwendolen. An excellent idea. I nearly always speak at the same time as other people. Will you take the time for me? Cecily. Certainly. Gwendolen beats time with uplifted finger. Gwendolen and Cecily speaking together. Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all. Jack and Algernon speaking together. Our Christian names? Is that all? But we are going to be christened this afternoon. Gwendolen to Jack. For my sake, you prepared to do this terrible thing? I am. Cecily to Algernon. To please me, you are ready to face this fearful ordeal? I am. Gwendolen. How absurd to talk of equality of the sexes. Where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned, men are infinitely beyond us. Jack. We are. Clasp hands with Algernon. Cecily. They have moments of physical courage of which we women know absolutely nothing. Gwendolen to Jack. Darling. Algernon to Cecily. Darling. They fall into each other's arms. Enter Merriman. When he enters, he coughs loudly, seeing the situation. Lady Bracknell. Jack. Good heavens! Enter Lady Bracknell. The couple separate in alarm. Exit Merriman. Lady Bracknell. Gwendolen, what does this mean? Gwendolen. Merely I'm engaging to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma. Come here. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young, of a physical weakness in the old. Turns to Jack. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty mind, whose confidence I purchased by means of a small coin. I followed her at once by luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I am glad to say, under the impression that she is attending a more than usually lengthy lecture at the University Extension Scheme on the influence of a permanent income on thought. I do not propose to undeceive him. Indeed, I have never undeceived him on any question I would consider it wrong. Of course, you will clearly understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately from this moment. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm. Jack. I am engaged to be married to Gwendolen, Lady Bracknell. You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now, as regards Algernon. Algernon. Yes, Aunt Augusta. May I ask if it is in this house that your invalid friend of Mr. Bunbury resides? No, Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at present, in fact.
Bunbury is dead.
Dead? When did Mr. Bunbury die? His death must have been extremely sudden.
Oh, I killed Bunbury this afternoon. Poor Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Bunbury, he quite exploded.
Exploded? Was he a victim of a revolutionary outrage? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If so, he is well punished for his morbidity.
Algernon, my dear Aunt Augusta, I mean he could be found out. The doctors found out that Bunbury could not live. That is what I mean. So Bunbury died.
He seems to have a great confidence in the opinion of his physicians. I am glad. However, he has made up his mind at the last to some definite course of action and acted under proper medical advice. And now we have finally gotten rid of that Mr. Bunbury. May I ask, Mr. Worthing, who is that young person whose hand my nephew Algernon is now holding in what seems to be a particularly unnecessary manner?
Jack, that lady is Miss Cicely Cardew, my ward. Lady Bracknell bows coldly to Cicely. I am engaged to be married to Cicely, Aunt Augusta, says Algernon.
I beg your pardon?
Cicely. Mr. Mortier and I are engaged to be married, Miss Lady Bracknell. Lady Bracknell, with a shiver, crossing to the sofa and sitting down.
I do not know whether there is anything particularly exciting in the air of this particular part of Hertfordshire, but the number of engagements that go on seems to be considerably above the proper average that statistics have laid down for our guidance. I think some preliminary inquiry on my part would not be out of place. Mr. Worthing, is Mrs. Cardew at all connected with any of the larger railway stations in London? I merely desire information. Until yesterday, I had no idea there were any families or persons whose origin was at Terminus.
Jack looks perfectly furious, but restrains himself. Jack. Mrs. Cardew is of the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, Southwest, Grimsville Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporn, Fiefshire, N.B.
That sounds not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen. What proof have I of their authenticity?
Jack. I've carefully preserved the court guide of this period. They are open to your inspection, Lady Bracknell.
I have known strange errors in that publication.
Jack. Mrs. Cardew's family solicitors are Messrs. Markby, and Markby.
Markby, and Markby? A firm of the highest position in their profession. Indeed, I am told that one of the Mr. Markbys is occasionally to be seen at dinner parties. So far, I am satisfied.
Jack. How extremely kind of you, Lady Bracknell. I've also in my possession, you will be pleased to hear, certificates of Mrs. Cardew's birth, baptism, whooping cough, registration, vaccination, confirmation, and the measles, both the German and the English variety.
Ah, life crowded with indecent. I see, though perhaps somewhat too exciting for a young girl. I am not myself in favor of premature experiences.
She rises and looks at her watch.
Gwendolen, the time approaches for our departure. We have not a moment to lose. As a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, I had better ask if Mrs. Cardew has any little fortune.
Jack. Oh, about £130,000 in funds. That is all. Goodbye, Lady Bracknell. So pleased to have seen you. Lady Bracknell, sitting down again.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000, and in the funds? Mrs. Cardew seems to be a most attractive young lady, now that I look at her. Few girls of the present day have any really solid qualities, any of the qualities that last and improve with time. We live, I regret to say, in an age of sacrifices.
To Cicely.
Come over here, dear.
Cicely goes across.
Pretty child, your dress is sadly simple, and your hair seems almost as nature might have left it. But we can soon alter all of that. A thoroughly experienced French maid produces a really marvellous result in a very brief space of time. I remember recommending one to a young lady Lansing, and after 3 months her own husband did not know her.
Jack. After 6 months, he knew her. Lady Bracknell glares at Jack for a few moments, then bends with a practised smile to Cicely.
Kindly turn round, sweet child.
Cicely turns round.
No, the side view is what I meant.
Cicely presents her profile.
Yes, quite as I expected. There are distinct social possibilities in your profile. The 2 weak points in our age are of its want of principle and its want of profile. Your chin is a little higher, dear. Style largely depends on the way a chin is worn. They are worn very high just at present. Algernon!
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
There are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecilia is the sweetest, dearest, prettiest girl in the whole world, and I don't care twopence about social possibilities.
No, never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that.
To Cicely.
Dear child, of course you know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend on, but I do not approve of mercenary marriages. When I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of any kind, but I never dreamed for a moment of allowing that to stand in my way. Well, I suppose I must give you my consent.
Algernon. Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
Cecily kisses her.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. You may also address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Cecily. Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The marriage, I think, had better take place quite soon.
Algernon. Thank you, Aunt Augusta. Cecily. Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
To speak frankly, I am not in favour of long engagements. They give people the opportunity of finding out each other's character before marriage, which I think is never advisable.
Jack. I beg your pardon for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but this engagement is quite out of the question. I am Miss Cardew's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of age. That consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is extremely, I almost say an ostensibly eligible young man. He has nothing, but he looks everything. What more can one desire?
Jack. It pains me very much to speak frankly to you, Lady Bracknell, about your nephew. But the fact is that I do not approve at all of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible! He is an Oxian.
I fear there can be no possible doubt about the matter. This afternoon, during my temporary absence in London, out on an important question of romance, he obtained admission to my house by means of the false pretense of being my brother. Under an assumed name, he drank, I've just been informed, by my butler, an entire pint bottle of my Pierre Joet, Brunt, year 89, a wine I was specifically preserving for myself. Continuing his disgraceful deception, he succeeded in the course of this afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward. He subsequently stayed to tea, devoured every single muffin, and what makes his conduct from all the more heartless is that he was perfectly well aware from the first that I had no brother, that I never had a brother, and that I didn't intend to have a brother, not even of any kind. I distinctly told him so myself yesterday afternoon.
Ahem, Mr. Worthing. After careful consideration, I have decided entirely to overlook my nephew's conduct towards you.
That is very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. My own decision, however, is unalterable. I decline to give my consent. Lady Bracknell to Cecily.
Come here, sweet child. How old are you, dear?
Cecily. Well, I'm really only 18, but I always admit to 20 when I go to evening parties.
You are perfectly right in making some slight alteration. Indeed, no woman should ever be quite accurate about her age. It looks so calculating. 18. But admitting to 20 at evening parties, well, it would not be very long before you are of age, and free of the restraints of tutelage. Still, I don't think your guardian's consent is, after all, a matter of any importance.
Pray excuse me, Lady Bracknell, for interrupting you again, but it is only fair to tell you that, according to the terms of her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not come legally of age until she is 35.
That does not seem to me to be a grave objection. 35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women of the very highest birth who have, in their own free choice, remained 35 for years. Little Dumbleton is an instance in point. To my knowledge, she has been 35 ever since she has arrived at the age of 40, which was many years ago now. I see no reason why our dear Cecily should not be even still more attractive at the age you mentioned than she is at present. There will be a large accumulation of property.
Cecily. Helgi, could you wait for me till I was 35? Algernon. Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could. Cecily. Yes, I felt it instinctively, but I couldn't wait all that time. I hate waiting even 5 minutes for anybody. It always makes me rather cross. I'm not punctual myself, I know, but I do like punctuality in others, and waiting, even to be married, is quite out of the question. Algernon. Then what is to be done, Cecily? Cecily. I don't know, Mr. Monche.
Well, dear Worthing, as Miss Cardew states positively that she cannot wait till she is 35, a remark which I am bound to say seems to me to show a somewhat impatient nature, I would beg of you to reconsider your decision.
Jack. But my dear Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your hands. The moment you consent to my marriage with Gwendolen, I will most gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward. Lady Bracknell rises.
You must be quite aware that what you propose is out of the question.
Jack. Then a passionate celibacy is all of us can look forward to.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolen. Algernon, of course, can choose for himself. She pulls out her watch. Come, dear.
Gwendolen rises.
We have already missed 5, if not 6 trains. To miss any more might expose us to comment on the platform.
Dr. Charlesby enters. Everything is quite ready for the christening.
The christening, sir? Is that not somewhat premature?
Charlesby looks puzzled and pointing to Jack and Algernon. Both these gentlemen have expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
At their age, the idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. I will not hear of such excesses. Lord Bracknell will be highly displeased if he learned that was the way in which you wasted your time and money.
Am I to understand there will be no christenings at all this afternoon? Jack. I don't think that, as things are now, would be of much practical value to either of us, Dr. Charlesby. I'm grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. They savour from the heretical views of the Anabaptists, views I have completely refuted in four of my unpublished sermons. However, as your present mood seems to be one particularly secular, I will return to the church at once. Indeed, I have just been informed by the pew opener for the last hour and a half, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Miss Prism? Did I hear you mention a Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. I'm on my way to join her.
Pray allow me to detain you for a moment. This matter may prove to be one of vital importance to Lord Bracknell and myself. Is this Miss Prism a female of a repellent aspect, remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies. The very picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
I'm celibate, madam.
Jack.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been in the last 3 years Mrs. Carter's esteemed governess, and a valued companion.
In spite of what I hear of her, I must see her once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She is nigh. Enter Mrs. Prism, hurriedly. Mrs. Prism.
I was told you to expect me in the vestry, dear Canon. I have been waiting for you there for 1 hour and 3/4.
She catches sight of Lady Bracknell, who's fixed her with a stony glare. Miss Prism grows pale and quails. She looks anxiously around, as if desirous to escape. Lady Bracknell.
Prism!
Prism bows her head in shame.
Come here, Prism.
Prism approaches in a humble manner.
Where is that baby?
General consideration. The canon starts back in horror. Algernon and Jack pretend to be anxious to shield Cicely and Gwendolen from hearing the details of a terrible public scandal.
28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104, Upper Grosvenor Street, in charge of a preambler that contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. A few weeks later, through elaborate investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the preambler was discovered at midnight, standing by itself in a remote corner of Bayswater. It contained the manuscript of a 3-volume novel of more than usually revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not there. Prism, where is that baby?
Miss Prism.
Lady Bracknell, I am ashamed that I do not know. I only wish I did. The plain facts of the case are those. On the morning of the day you mentioned, a day that is forever branded into my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out in preambler, as I had also to me summoned an old capacious handbag in which I had intended to place the manuscript of a work of fiction that I had written during my few unoccupied hours. In a moment of mental abstraction, for which I can never forgive myself, I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and placed the baby in the handbag.
Jack. But where did you deposit the handbag?
Miss Prism. Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Jack. Miss Prism, this is a matter of no small importance to me. I insist on knowing where you deposited the handbag that contained the infant.
Miss Prism. I left it in the cloakroom of the larger railway stations in London.
What railway station?
Victoria. The Brighton line.
She sinks into a chair. I must retire to my room for a moment, Gwendolen. Wait here for me.
Gwendolen. If you are not too long, I will wait here for you all my life.
Exit Jack in great excitement. What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
I dare not even suspect it, Dr. Coswell. I need hardly tell you that in families of high precision, strange coincidences are not supposed to occur. They hardly consider the thing.
Noises are heard overhead, as if someone was throwing trunks about. Everybody looks up. Cicely.
Uncle Jack seems to be strangely agitated.
Your guardian has a very emotional nature.
That noise is extremely unpleasant. It sounds like as if he was having an argument. I dislike arguments of every kind. They're always vulgar, and often convincing.
He has stopped now. The noise is redoubled.
I wish he would arrive at some conclusion.
Gwendolen. The suspense is terrible. I hope it will last. Enter Jack with a handbag of black leather in his hand. Jack, rushing up to Mrs. Prism. Is this the handbag, Mrs. Prism? Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answers. Mrs. Prism.
It seems to be mine. Yes, here's the injury it received through upsetting of a Growers Street omnibus in younger and happier days. Here sustained on the lining caused by the explosion of a temperance beverage, an incident that occurred at Leamington. And here on the lock are my initials. I had forgotten that in an extravagant mood I had them placed here. The bag is undoubtedly mine. I am delighted to have it so unexpectedly restored to me. It has been a great inconvenience being without it all these years.
Jack. Mrs. Prism, more is restored to you than just this handbag. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes, mother. Mrs. Prism, recoiling in indignant astonishment.
Mr. Worthing, I am unmarried.
Jack. Unmarried? I do not deny that it is a serious blow, but after all, who has the right to cast a stone against one who has suffered? Cannot repentance wipe out an act of folly? Why should there be one law for man and another for woman? Mother, I forgive you. He tries to embrace her again. Mrs. Prism.
Mr. Worthing, there is some air,
pointing to Lady Bracknell.
There is the lady who can tell you who you really are.
Jack. Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive, but would you kindly inform me of who I am?
I am afraid that the news I have to give you will not altogether please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Montachet, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Jack. Algy's elder brother? Then I have a brother after all. I knew I had a brother. I always said I had a brother. Cecily, how could you have ever doubted that I had a brother? He seizes hold of Algernon. Dr. Cosmo, my unfortunate brother, Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother, Gwendolen, my unfortunate brother, Algy. You young scoundrel. You will have to treat me with more respect in the future. You have never behaved to me like a brother in all your life. Algernon. Well, not today, old boy, I admit it. I did my best, however, though I was out of practice. They shake hands. Gwendolen to Jack. My own. But what own are you? What is your Christian name? Now that you have become somebody else. Jack. Good heavens, I've quite forgotten that point. Your decision on the subject of my name is irrevocable, I suppose. Gwendolen. I never change, except in my affections. Cecily. What a noble nature you have, Gwendolen. Jack. The question had better be cleared up at once. Aunt Augustine, a moment. At the time when Miss Prism left me in the handbag, had I been christened already? Every luxury the money could buy, including christening, had been lavished on you by your fond and doting parents. Then I was christened. That is settled. Now, what name was I given? Let me know the worst. Being the eldest son, you were naturally christened after your father. Yes, but what was my father's Christian name? I cannot at present moment recall what the general Christian's name was, but I have no doubt he had one. He was eccentric, I admit, but only in later years, and that was a result of the Indian climate and marriage and indigestion and other things of that kind. Algy, can't you recollect what our father's Christian name was? My dear boy, we were never on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old. Jack, but his name would appear in the army lists of superiors, I suppose. Aunt Augusta? The general was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life, but I have no doubt his name would appear in any military directory. Jack, the army lists of the last 40 years are here. The delightful records should have been my constant study. He rushes to the bookcase and tears the books out. M. Generals. Malheim, Maxwell, Magny, what a ghastly names they have here. Markby, Migsby, Bobbs, Montachet, Lieutenant, 1840, Captain, Lieutenant Colonel, 1869. Christian names, Earnest, John. Puts book very quietly down. Speaks quite calmly. I always told you, Gwendolen, my name was Earnest, didn't I? Well, it is Earnest after all. I mean, it naturally is Earnest. Yes, I remember the general was called Earnest. I knew I had some particular reason for disliking that name. Gwendolen. Earnest, my own Earnest, I felt from first that you could have no other name. Jack. Gwendolen, it is a terrible thing for a man to find out suddenly that all his life he has been speaking nothing but truth. Can you forgive me? Gwendolen. I can. For I feel sure that you are sure to change. Jack. My own one. Gospel to Miss Prism. Laeta embraces her. Mrs. Prism, enthusiastic. Friedrich, at last. Algernon. Cecily embraces her. At last. Jack. Gwendolen embraces her. At last. Lady Bracknell. My nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of triviality. Jack. On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I have now realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest. Curtain.